At Your End Step is brought to you by Comic Town and BCW Supplies. Hello, and welcome to At Your End Step. My name is Morgan. I'm here with Mike.
Hello.
And Dave.
Hey.
We have another fun-filled episode for you folks this week. 199, right? Or yeah. This is 199, correct?
199.
Okay. I know I actually put up the show and like number all the episodes, but
it's a great price. It's a blowout sale. 199.
Less than two.
Correct. Accurate. We're a steal, as it were.
If you're excited about all the cool things we're going to do next week for 200, message us and let us know what those are. Yeah. We're not sure yet.
Yeah, we literally don't know, and it's really awkward because so we have episode 200, which is next week, and then Dave, you're on vacation.
Yep.
So we have to figure out what we'll do for then.
No, we already talked. This is the soft reboot. Number one, Morgan Mike.
And then the week after that, I'm on vacation. I will be out of town. So,
but we have a treat. We have a treat for the people this week, though.
Oh, correct. We have a interview that we recorded with none other than Chris Van Meter, CVM, the Stormbeard Dragon himself. So we will actually be inserting that. I believe probably between our community segments and the competitive segment, so kind of roll into that. But it was it's a nice short and sweet interview, but it was a good time. So I hope you guys enjoy that when you hear it coming up.
And I will say, in all seriousness, like check out a show because he's done what is kind of the cool fad now, but he sort of turned it into a bit of a game show type thing too, and you get prizes.
It's also because it's just like it's structured content as well, like it's a season.
Right.
His show is called Friends Day Night Magic.
Friends Day Night Magic.
So he has him and a guest, and they stream a deck of their choosing. And I'm going to let him tell you about it when we get to it, and then he'll be able to talk to you about it, and tell you where to find it as well. So, but let's get started with our show, and we'll jump right in here to the community segment. So first and foremost. Our resident judge here, Mike, wanted to talk to us about some rules changes with Ixalan.
Let me change
pirate judge. Yeah,
pirate
put on
judge.
the pirate hat.
Pirate judge.
By the way, I definitely do a pirate hat. If you didn't see pictures of it, go to Twitter.
I know.
They're there. So there's every time we get a new set, we get some comprehensive rule changes. Most of these things are minor, adding creature types, adding any new abilities, keywords, that sort of thing. But normally we do get a couple of minor changes are a little important, and we have two of those we need to talk about for Ixalan. The first has to do with how Blood Moon works. So, I don't like that. I don't like the way you did that. Stop.
Moon.
What is wrong with you? So essentially, the way Blood Moon works, we know that it turns on basic lands in the mountains. However, in the past, certain things about those lands have remained true, such as playing a shock land will still prompt you to pay 2 life to enter untapped, or a land that enters the battlefield tapped will still do so. This is no longer true. It sees that it is a mountain, and it is just a mountain. So it now no longer has, it no longer sees things like enter the battlefield tapped, or unless you pay 2 life, which is significant.
It also has some weird changes with certain lands that enter the battlefield with effects, with counters on them specifically.
Your favorite Dark Depths.
Yeah, Dark Depths that no longer gets counters, but is still a mountain. So,
if Blood Moon were to leave,
well, then some things might happen.
It would sacrifice and become this. Yes, people have already started brewing this in Legacy. Yes, you can do it on turn 2.
You can theoretically do it on turn.
Is it turn? No, it's turn 1, isn't it?
It's turn 1.
It's Legacy. There's got to be a way. To do it on turn 1.
It's Dark Depths. It's Dark Depths, 4 Simian Spirit Guide, Magus of the Moon, Lightning Bolt. You can do it on turn 1.
You can use Lotus Petal, right?
Or Lotus Petal, whatever. You can do that because then you play the Magus and you play your Dark Depths, and then it has no counters, and you bolt your Magus of the Moon, and there we go. We did it.
Win a game of Magic. It's crazy. So, and I think the only other one that I can think of right off the top of my head is Gemstone Mine.
Just die.
All sorts of bad.
It doesn't die. It actually is just.
Oh, it just doesn't tap for anything.
It doesn't. Yeah, it is no longer a thing if Blood Moon were to leave. So,
but it also mentions things like the guild lands like Dimir Aqueduct no longer having to bounce a land, for example. So
basically, just pretend it's an actual mountain.
Pretend it's an
Just
actual
forget
mountain.
anything else that's attached to it.
yes, okay.
That
So,
actually makes sense. I mean,
it does not. It still doesn't get rid of like super types. So be aware.
Like artifact land? you
Yes,
mean? Okay.
they are still artifacts. So like super types are not ever like affected. So random, but it does happen. But beyond that, it is still. This is how it works now.
I mean, that definitely matters. I mean, a lot of Affinity decks play Blood Moon
Yeah.
in the sideboard, so that's important to know. Especially when you have things like, Etch Champion that counts, number of artifacts in play and whatever.
Yeah. The next one is something that should be pretty obvious, but is needs to be changed. Essentially, I guess how I want to phrase this. When you cast a spell like Path to Exile, or you Ghost Quarter your opponent's land, you now need to prompt them to ask them if they are going to do the secondary thing. Are you getting a basic land from this?
The way that the cards are worded, it does say, your opponent may, either search your library for a basic land, put into play tapped for Path to Exile, or search for a basic land, put into play, whatever, for
Right.
Ghost Quarter.
But they now want you to prompt them to check and see if they are doing this or not. Essentially, yes, they may do this. You now need to confirm if they have or have not done this.
Right. So in the past, you would do it, and then if your opponent didn't do it, then it was just assumed that they chose not to.
They chose not to, or didn't have any basics left. But for some players, especially when you're talking about formats like Modern or Legacy, some people just aren't familiar with the cards, especially cards I haven't seen print in a long time, or you have a whole subset of players that really enjoy using foreign cards, to non-local, the players who are not local to that language, and you can really get them, and it's a really messed up way to win. So this sort of cuts down on that. It promotes good communication. Now, I have seen some people who are upset by this. They feel that they have lost an edge on this, and I will strongly say if you feel that you have lost an edge because of this rule change, then you are a bad player. And that's strong. I'm sorry if you're like, oh, well, I'm not going to listen to this podcast anymore. Sorry. Don't be scum.
Hot take Mike over here.
Yeah, I know, it's weird. Don't be scum.
Captain of the hot take.
Hey, my opponent didn't know Path to Exile did, could have gotten land, didn't, and that's how I won. Great. You're scum.
Yeah. And there are actually multiple of these kind of effects in Standard currently
Absolutely.
as well. So it is important to know even if you don't play Modern. So just if your opponent is supposed to do something due to, an effect of your card, you now have to let them know.
Now this doesn't mean you can go crazy, and I think the people who are upset about this aren't really thinking this through. I'll use Hostage Taker, because it's a card we're going to talk about a lot on this episode, as an example. I had that cast against me in F&M, and my opponent never cast the card underneath it. Had 2 turns to cast it. It was a Glory Bringer. I would have lost. They did not cast it. I am not expected to tell them that they can do that, right?
Yeah.
They control the card. They can choose to cast it or not. I am not prompting my opponent to do that. So if you think you now have to do things like, well, you probably, I hate to tell you this, but you should probably just cast the Glory Bringer here, right? After the game, I was like, it was game 1. I was like, hey, just you should probably cast the card. And you had to read the card. It's new. So that is not what this is prompting you to do. You do not have to explain Magic to your opponent.
You don't have to give them strategic advice
No,
on their
not at
cards.
all.
It's just, resolving the card correctly.
That's exactly it. So, and all you have to do is prompt. If they go Path your guy, and then if they don't make any action, ask them, are you going to get a land? And if they say, oh, right, then good, they go get a land. If they say no, then they say no, and you move on with the game. So, minor,
Yeah,
but important.
A lot of people might think of this as dumbing down the game or whatever, but I mean, really, if you were playing online, for example, you would get the little prompt, would you like to use the ability?
Right, exactly.
Yes or no?
Right.
So there's no way that they would just miss it. So I don't know. In a way, it makes the game better, in my opinion. I like both of these rule changes.
Yeah, for sure. I think they both make sense and make the game more logical as far as that goes. So let's move on to something that is a bit of a mystery to us, and that we hope that everyone can help us solve. Metallic Mimic has recently almost, if not more than, doubled in price for no reason. And why? We just want to know why. This is just a small segment. If you know why Metallic Mimic has doubled in price, please let us know. Because it was a 4 of an Approach War winning deck. It was never as expensive as it is right now. So and it's not currently seeing any standard play. Now a lot of people said like obviously this is a tribal focused set. Aether Revolt is small. We've got that feedback from one of our listeners, and that's true, but it's pretty crazy, and it's like a $13 to $15 card now, which is insane.
Now, as we're talking about this here, I do have one thing to to suggest. So, in the zombies deck, Relentless Dead shot up to be so expensive that it sort of handicapped the rest of the zombies.
Maybe.
So maybe some of those cards have room to grow afterwards. That was the only thing that popped in my mind, is because normally when you have a deck like that, you look at like Mardu Vehicles, for example, things like Toolcraft Exemplar or a 4 of in every one of those decks, but they're 50 cents, right? Because you had to have Heart of Kyrians and Gideons to play it. So when you have a deck like that where you have a mythic that is sort of protecting the cost of the other cards, maybe now Metallic Mimic is just adjusting to that. That's my literal best theory at this point.
I'm still going to say Merfolk because of the +1/+1 counter synergy.
Much like what they're actually doing on Ixalan, that deck is still hiding.
Yeah. I don't know. I got nothing.
All right. Our next thing here is so we're not going to really talk too much about the GPs from over the weekend.
They were team limited, which are cool to play in.
You can really take a guess. Peach Garden Oath was in the finals, and one of them, like, duh. But we did have a really fun moment that sort of I like this, Dave. You put this in here, and I looked at the clip and I was going to be like, oh, whatever, but it really made me laugh. It was sort of like bringing the fun back a little bit.
Yeah. I think like competitive Magic can feel like really like just stuffy, I guess. Like it's just like not, you don't have a lot of like big personalities on the Pro Tour. I feel like you do have people like LSV who are I think unique. And I think I love his sense of humor and all that, but he's not like a huge personality. I think Osip's one of those like old school guys that kind of was like one of those big personalities, and he's obviously not playing as much competitively now. But I don't know. This was great. Do you want to like talk about it or?
So you had. Again, they're playing limited. Osip had the 1/4, the Atlazan or Akazan Archer.
Yeah.
And then Owen had spent his turn casting the 3/3 blue the blue-green guy that can add counters and draw cards.
Sure.
And Osip presented an attack. Attack for 1. A 1/4 into your 3/3. And Owen went to the tank. And then Owen took 1. And then Osip lost his mind.
Lost his mind.
He actually like jumped out of his chair, was like fist pumping, and like they showed like a wide shot of the feature match area, and like people from like all the other matches were kind of like turned around like what is going on? And he was just like losing his mind. It was insane.
So all because he was able to bluff 1 damage through on Owen.
Because he bluffed Owen for 1 damage. It was fantastic. I love it.
It is something that you don't like. We've had some contentious things happen with like emotional outbursts from players, one way or another. But this is comedic, in my opinion, and I don't know how you can see it any other way. Especially like the way that like Owen Turnwald like presents himself on the internet as being like the master, and he's obviously a very very good Magic player, better than I or probably anyone else on this podcast will be. So he
combined.
I'm 0-1 against him. I have no arguments.
Yes. So it's funny to see like Osip make this play and like Owen really tank about it, and just like that huge over the top reaction is obviously comedic. So it's funny.
Even he was laughing, and Huey was next to him. He was laughing, and like Owen just threw his hands up like, "Ah, you got me." Like,
it just like the free attack for 1 is something that is genuinely feels great. In Magic.
The best part about that too is just watching on it and watching the life total go from 2019. That was actually the best part of it too, because like this is not like the critical juncture in the game. It's turn 3 and just like dink.
It really wasn't like the play. Like the play itself wasn't like that great. It was just the reaction that Osip had.
It was great,
and you have to go watch it. I've probably watched it at least 10 times now, and I laugh every single time because it's great. So
yeah, certainly worth a couple.
Yeah,
minutes
check it out.
Time.
Find it on Twitter or what have you. I'm sure it's pretty much everywhere. Reddit, I know, has it if you want to go there. I know some people don't like Reddit. Understandable.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's pretty great. All right. Next up, we have some Legacy talk, guys.
Welcome to Legacy talk.
Welcome to Legacy talk. I love the clips. I'm going to give you a topic to discuss. Deathrite Shaman, should we ban it or not?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Talk amongst yourselves.
Talk amongst yourselves.
I
If you don't know who or what we're referencing there, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for you. Go watch some classic SNL.
Yeah, it's like a pre Austin Powers Mike Myers.
It is
It's real refreshing.
It's great. It feels wonderful.
So Dave and I both played some Legacy this weekend, and I know what you're thinking. You guys? Yeah.
Yeah, the guys that don't ever talk about Legacy or play Legacy
Or kind
don't
of like take a dump on it often, whatever.
yeah.
And Dave won the event, and he beat me in
did it.
top 4 to do it.
I might have had a rather gross Delver flip against you
yeah.
on camera.
Yeah, it was gross.
It's there. Yeah.
Yeah, so Comic Town had their Legacy Expo this weekend, and I, recognizing I wouldn't be able to play in the standard classic at the end of this month, hashtag standard classic, went, oh no, I think I need to play Legacy if I want to qualify for the finals this year. So I went hunting for a Legacy deck, and I found Splinter Twin. And now if you're thinking, Mike, you took a wrong turn, you ended up at Modern, yeah, I understand.
Well, like
Essentially-
Modern a few years ago.
I know. Essentially, what the deck was is if you go back to right at the end, right before Callblade was banned in Standard, and you had Twin Blade.
Which
this
was, Splinter Twin plus Cobblade.
Yeah, which was for about a month was a horrifyingly it was just a terrifying deck, and then they banned the Callblade stuff, Stoneforge Mystic and Jace. I played that with like Brainstorm and Ponder. And
like
it's
Swords of
really,
Plowshare.
like Swords of Plowshare. It's like everywhere you could upgrade, you upgraded. Like you got Vendilion Click as well. It's just like, oh my gosh, like you don't want to play Squadron Hawk anymore. You have Snapcaster Mage. Like
You have to play like Umazawa's GT.
oh my gosh, and Batterskull.
Yeah,
So the deck was up my alley, and it had a combo finish. So I like to play fair blue decks, but having a combo finish allowed me to sort of interact on an axis that I don't normally get to in those decks, where it can be it can be kind of hard to close the door. And ended up doing pretty well. I beat 2 Death and Taxes decks, and I beat a Storm deck. And then the top 8 managed to beat Show and Tell as well. Had a draw in the Swiss, Dave. And it was fun. Now I did lose to I lost to a Mud deck, a Stax deck, and that if you can go back and watch that. It was literally like 8 minutes on camera. I do not know what I'm doing in that match. If you want to feel really like arrogant as a Legacy player, go watch me like being a fish who's actually just out of water, just going like, I don't know, where's the water? So, but it was a really good run, and yeah, I lost to Dave, but it was one of those things where we had top 4'd, like in top 4 qualified. So it was like
mission accomplished.
Yeah, it was upsetting to lose. Like it's never fun to lose, but at the same time, like losing to Dave when I accomplished what I came to accomplish was felt good. So I'm qualified, and I played Legacy to do it. So take that, Legacy. I don't know. Here's the thing: I actually had a blast. I had a blast playing this deck.
Oh yeah,
and also the reactions I got from people when I Splinter Twin them. I just, I'm just gonna eat those little moments.
You just gotta store those away for a rainy day, because Splinter Twin just probably never coming back. Never coming back.
It was great.
Yeah,
well, I got to play Delver.
Yeah,
so that was cool.
Speaking of things coming back,
yeah, no joke.
Hey, I'll always take any opportunity to play a good Delver deck. Probably not so much in Modern, but Legacy is still pretty good,
If they gave you Cabal Therapy in Modern, you might be okay.
Yeah, Cabal Therapy's that card. I mean, it's already hard to play, but when you don't really know the format, you don't really play the format, that's really hard. It's easy mode when you have a Cataxian Probe. So most of the Cabal Therapies I cast were I already knew what their hand was, but the really hard ones was when I didn't know their hand. And I was like, oh man. Did they play this card? I don't know. Should I just name a card that I know they have? But that's not even good if I hit. I don't know. So
you also got to play with Young Pyromancer though, which does make missing on the front half a little easier sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, it was a lot of cards that I've had some experience with. Delvers and Young Pyromancer. Let me tell you, Deathrite Shaman. So I played a little bit of Deathrite Shaman in Standard, which. It was okay, it was fine. Never played it in Modern or Legacy. Oh man, that card was ridiculous. If people say that card should be banned in Legacy, I don't know if people are saying that or not. But I would
Yes, some
probably
people
agree
are
with that.
saying
It was
that.
like by far the best deck.
Yes,
or
one person
best card in the
particularly
deck.
saying that. That card allows the deck to function because it runs no basics. The Grixis Elf
Yeah.
runs no basics and also runs Wastelands from like resource denial. So
Yeah.
Deathrite Shaman allows that deck to work.
Oh yeah, I had a game, so I was able to beat 2 lands decks. I beat a lands deck in round 1. I don't know much about Legacy, but I know that's a bad matchup. And then I was able to beat another one in the quarterfinals of the top 8. And game 3, I won. He had double Mazavith in play, so I pretty much couldn't win through attacking. So I did all 20 points of damage on Deathrite Shaman Drains. It
Dumb,
was fantastic.
dumb magic card.
But yeah, deck was sweet. Yeah, I want to thank username Aaron Relentless on Magic Online for a sweet deck list. Thank you, buddy. I don't claim to
Dave and I
like.
both did the old Price is Right game of going to MTG Goldfish and just spinning the wheel.
Yeah. No, it wasn't random. I mean, I knew I wanted to play Grixis Delver, so I just looked at a couple different lists. I was like, hey, this one has Bitter Blossom in the sideboard. Let's go with that one.
Oh, so it wasn't random, but you just went with the one that had Bitter Blossom on the side.
No. It was I like the look of the list. It was like some of them had True Name Nemesis and some of them didn't. I'm like, you know what? I'll play the one with 1 True Name Nemesis, and that card was like super important in a couple matchups. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to go into super detail, but I mean, I had a lot of fun. Definitely got lucky, in the top 8.
I will say your top 8 match was fun to watch against lands. And our match, I think, was definitely interesting. But in all seriousness, if you want to go back and watch any of the matches, go back and watch the finals. Because I think he played against the Stacks deck that I had lost to.
And I lost to him, too, in the Swiss.
And he lost to him in the Swiss. And Pilot is a good legacy player in general. And I think we on this cast, myself, Morgan, Jordan, and he was on, have talked about those moments sometimes where you see, like when Dave was like, I went to the Pro Tour this many times. And then you're like, oh, okay. And then there are times you see it, you're like, oh, that guy. That match was one of those times you see it. Like we always tell the story about the Pro Tour qualifier when you got to Dublin, where like you like blew your opponent's mind when you like cast an Angel of Serenity to target stuff in his yard to shut him down, and like your opponent was just like in awe, and we were like, oh god, and it was just one of those moments where it's like the master. So this is all you're getting. Don't get a big head, but this is all you're getting.
I'll take it.
But it was a fun match to watch, and like. You took a pretty difficult matchup in a format that you don't know, and you turned it around, and that's pretty good. So, but we both had fun this weekend. We both did well, and now I will see you in the finals. So that means Morgan, you have a mission.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm going to qualify. Not this month at least.
You're not going to play in the Classic either. Oh,
I'm going to be. I'll be in Florida.
Well, they do,
sunny Florida.
Not to keep talking this up, but they do have a sealed expo.
Yes.
In November, which I think may be your last chance, unless they do a last chance qualifier.
It'll be my last chance, and I think I have to I have 4 points, so I have to win. I think that's the actual, unless top 4 automatically qualify.
Top 4 automatically qualify.
Okay, well then I have the top 4.
If it's an expo, that's what mine did. So
yes, so that's what I would have to do, and sealed not exactly my strong suit, so we'll see. But I'm glad you guys had a good time at the expo. But there was some extra, some other legacy stuff that actually happened that we felt important to discuss, which was Pirate Stompy or Popeye Stompy.
Popeye Stompy.
That's yeah.
Yeah, this is weird. I don't follow the Reddit game as well as others do.
We could just give a general rundown of what this is.
Essentially,
right? It's kind of like a troll deck.
It's not a real deck.
Correct.
It's a catfish deck.
Yeah.
Like multiple outlets wrote about it. Chaz Andrus wrote about it. People have been streaming the deck without having a list. A bunch of cards from Arcadian Masks, all the Rishadans that made people sack permanents, all shot up to ridiculous prices, and there's no deck. He released an article yesterday or Sunday.
What, Bob Wong?
Bob Wong,
October
yeah.
1st, so yesterday for us. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Detailing the list, and the list, if you look at it, has whatever Ramirez, the guy from Legends, in it. The 6-mana 4/3 that has first strike.
Ramirez DiPietro.
That's it. So it's definitively a joke, and people are kind of torn on this. So essentially, they started by catfishing on Twitter, just joking around about naming a deck, but not really talking about any cards. And then talking about how they were upset that the tech was getting out. And because WotC doesn't release all the lists, saying things like, oh, I went 5-0, I hope WotC chooses my list. and people started constructing a deck list based out of it. This is the weirdest thing I think I've ever seen. Like, because when Chase Andrews posted it, I was like, well, this is a cool deck list. Well, the deck list he posted has nothing to do with what they were talking about because they didn't have anything to talk about. So some people were very upset because they essentially bought into this deck. They bought all the cards that were getting hyped.
Yeah, so the people that are getting upset that like it's not a real deck, it's just like, well, instead of just taking what somebody is saying and just like assuming, just like use your brain. Yeah, like just like
maybe don't buy
figure it out.
Bad Pirates, like 5 mana 3/2 flyers from Mercadian Masks. Maybe don't buy that for $20 or $30. I don't know. That's just me talking, but God, he had like the list he posted had Saprazan Scary or whatever, the depletion counter land, and it was playing Skyship Plunderer to put more counters on it. Again, anything you could put to troll on this list, you could.
Yeah.
So I do think it's an interesting exercise in what the internet is capable of, but also like, yeah, if you blindly follow this stuff, maybe you need to reevaluate what you're doing, because if people didn't buy this stuff, then all the speculators who bought this stuff up won't be able to sell it. And you could actually punish the people who are trying to play the game. Like, you were trying to play the spec game. And then you feel really good about yourself. But if you're the one who bought into it, but you didn't bother to test the deck, see if it was real, sorry.
Yeah, this is... I don't know, this is kind of an interesting thing that can now happen, I guess, in Magic, is people can just talk and about nothing and trick people. And
prices spike, and it's weird.
Yeah, but see, that's a problem with the secondary market in general. In a lot of ways, is that people want to make money from the secondary market, and they will pursue that in any way, shape, or form. Well, and you can't stop that. And this is kind of them, getting burned by it. So I think it's awkward. It's a practical joke, and unfortunately, like, I feel bad. I feel somewhat bad for people that put money into it, but I hope they learned from it. That's the most that you can actually ask for, is that people learn that maybe don't do this. Like Mike said, wait for something real to develop. Tangible. Is what I should say. Now,
yeah, there are other ways to look at this as well. One thing I will say is that if you're upset about this and you compare this to things that like Travis Wu has done, or like what's his name from MTG Goldfish,
Saffron Olive.
And when I say what they've done, they haven't done anything wrong. They play off the wall brews. Sometimes if those things have any success, people freak out and buy them all because that's how the game works. Like, those decks have never, like, almost never amounted to anything. Like, Ninja Bear Delver was the closest thing to a real deck, and it's not real at all.
People are just always thirsty for the next best thing. Right. You know what I mean? Like, the next big thing to come along.
Do they tell those people they're terrible for this? Now, I do. That being said, I will say someone like Bob Huang, who again is fairly notable. If you start having a bunch of pros doing this, you know what I mean? Like, think when Brian Kilburn talked about how openly he talked about how he bought 200 Daybreak Rangers or whatever. So if he just, instead of like trying to play the card and make it good so that his spec paid off, instead he was just sort of like whispering on Twitter, just being like, "Did you hear about this Daybreak Ranger deck? It's sick." You know what I mean? And then sold them all off. There is a line where this becomes, I think,
like abusable
and blurry, and so I don't know where that line is. I think this is kind of funny, but at the same time, I do see a line on the horizon, and I hope it doesn't become like a consistent thing. I hope people do learn from it, like you said, Morgan.
I think it's definitely worse when you're dealing with like Legacy, but just because like you have cards that are on the reserve list. Now, I don't know if there was anything, here that what they talked about that was on the reserve list, but you have that potential.
It was in general, it was exciting because people were saying, like, these pirates are obviously from Mercadian Masks, which is one of the least, like, value sets.
It literally is propped up by the value of one Magic.
Yeah, Rashawn Port. So people were excited that, they could be, like, these cards that are now suddenly worth something because of their relevancy in Legacy. I think this is weird too, because now do you think like the people that were involved in this have like a credibility issue?
Oh, I think they definitely do, and that may come back to bite them, and that's on them as well. Like that's on them as well. It's just the honest truth. So,
because it's weird, right? Because like we turn to people who are well versed in a format and are play more Magic than we do or are better than we do when taking suggestions for like deck lists and cards and stuff like that. So it's like it feels weird to be misled in some persuasion by someone that you do trust.
Yeah, it is
to
weird.
a degree.
Like, you can cause someone can be wrong. Like I have hyped up cards and been wrong.
Yeah.
I am on or on video saying that like I think that the kidnapper, I can't remember his name all of a sudden.
Wasteland Strangler?
No, the one from this set.
The criminal from
Hostage
this set.
taker?
Yeah, thank you. The hostage taker. I wasn't sure if it was going to be good enough. That the card is powerful, but that effect, like and it's the best card here, right? So, like, you can be wrong about your evaluations of cards, but it does feel different when it's purposeful.
Yeah,
just for laughs.
Right.
So I don't know. Maybe I'm talking myself into not liking this.
It's a weird thing, and
It
like
is weird.
It's something that I don't know. I just it is something that I could definitely see both sides on.
Now, to be fair, there have been a number of people trying to make this work, and I don't know if it will or not, but the fact that some version of this deck actually exists and has been streamed is also a hilarious thing from the internet, too. Like, they managed to, without a list, just assuming what might be in the deck, start as a hive mind constructing a list.
Right. And have some success with it, as far as I know.
Yeah. So interesting. I think it's something to keep in the back of your mind the next time you hear, if you hear about a list that's being hyped, but it has a cool name, but you don't know the cards that are in it, because you should remember something right now. Magic decks don't have cool names anymore. Star City has killed that over the last few years. They do not like cool names. They like names that are identifiers. So if you hear a cool name, like, oh, it's Popeye Stompy, what cards are in it? Well, pirates, right? You might be getting catfished.
With Legacy, I do think
is
there's
Popeye a pirate?
no. He's a sailor.
Right.
A
Yeah.
pirate is a subclass of sailor.
A subclass.
All pirates are sailors, right?
That's
I'm
true,
pretty sure
that's
you just
true.
called pirates subhuman.
No,
I heard it.
not all
To be fair,
sailors are
some of them-
pirates,
some
but
of
all
them
pirates are
birds, though,
sailors.
right? So like,
Yeah, we have the sirens, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
so
They're still pirates, and pirates are still sailors, so it still works. It's okay. Before we move on to our interview with CVM, I do want to give a shout out to our September we have 2 new September patrons that we did not give a shout out to. So we want to give a shout out to Donnie Whipple and Mike Moore. So thank you so much for being contributors to our lovely show. We do obviously want to announce the winner of our deck box giveaway that we'll be in contact with, and I actually have that on my mobile device here real quick. Let me just pull that up because I already pulled the name for it. And the winner is Clayton Mallory. So Clayton Mallory, thank you so much for entering our contest. You are our winner of our BCW supplies giveaway, and we will be in contact with you so we can get you an address where we can send you your BCW supplies swag. So thank you much for everyone who participated in the contest. We'll be doing more of these throughout the year, of course, so keep your eyes locked on our Twitter for those announcements. All right. We will be back shortly with the interview with CVM. Hello, and welcome to a very special segment of At Your End Step. My name is Morgan, obviously, and we're with Mike and Dave.
Hi.
Hello?
It's important for voice identification, all right? And then we are actually joined today by a very special guest, none other than Chris Van Meter, or CVM. Say hello, CVM.
Hello, CVM.
Thank you. I appreciate the joke. And we saw that you were reaching out to kind of talk about a new project that you're doing on Twitch, and we kind of wanted to kind of sit you down and kind of have an interview with you so you could talk about that and talk about a little bit of Magic and Standard and everything that's going on. We obviously have Ixalan being out, and it's a brand new world out there. So we thought we would take the time to ask you some questions about it and what you're up to. So Mike actually is going to take over for me, and then we'll kind of fill in with Standard and other various things as we go on.
So I guess to start here, do you want to maybe... I'm assuming most of our listeners are familiar with you, but do you want to maybe introduce yourself for a minute, Chris?
Yeah, so my name is Chris Van Meter, commonly go by CVM. I'm known for my beard and Jund monsters. Basically, I used to live in Roanoke, Virginia. I worked at Star City Games, was part of the Versus series, popular with BBD versus CVM. Wrote articles for them for many years. I'm now on the West Coast, living in Seattle. I'm married with 2 pugs, and I'm the online products and purchasing manager at Card Kingdom for cardkingdom.com, and I do product design and purchasing for them.
Well, that's awesome. I know you obviously pretty well known on the Star City circuit. I got to actually top 8 with you last year, but I think you
Nice.
When you won with Red White Vehicles, you sort of stole my thunder. I was a little sad.
Yeah, that was a fun tournament. I had not played for the majority of that year, but wanted to start playing again. Signed on with Team Card Hoarder when they made their team, traveled for that season, and just won the first standard tournament. The Kaladesh was legal, so it was a nice welcome back.
Yeah, that was a nice top 8 if I remember. What, 32 Smuggler's Copters, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I got to ask, do you miss playing in the Midwest?
Yeah, I miss it a lot. The Magic scene here in the Pacific Northwest is awesome. There's a lot of people that play Magic, but it's primarily at the local game store level. F&M, PPTQs every now and then. There's a lot of Commander, but there isn't anything large scale like the Open Series here on the West Coast. So I definitely miss it. I miss traveling, miss the people, and miss the competition.
That's understandable. So, and I know you said you work out there for Card Kingdom, but you also have, so that's with you have Mox Boarding House and stuff out there too, though. So at least I know you've got some cool stores I hear about all the time, and we'll never probably get to visit.
Yeah, the stores here are awesome, and like I said, the LGS scene is amazing. It's better out here than anywhere else that I've ever been, but it is lacking from a high scale, Open Series Grand Prix type perspective. We do get Grand Prix once or twice a year, but it's nothing like when I was in Virginia, where I could just drive within 6 hours to a 10K every weekend.
Yeah, that's a little rough. Well, I guess speaking of the Open Series, I want to sort of get your thoughts here. We saw the first Open of this standard. What did you think this weekend?
I thought it was very interesting. I'm excited to see what happens at the Pro Tour, and if the control-loving pros can pick up the approach deck that Jim played and kind of fine-tune it. But my gut tells me it's going to be a lot of Sultai, some God Pharaoh's Gift, maybe, but there's going to be a lot of hostage takers this weekend.
Yeah, I think obviously that card has a lot of great text on it, but I think I was pretty surprised to see just how great it really was, and it does seem to have sort of taken the format by storm.
Yeah, like the way it plays out is pretty unique and not something that we're used to before. Like the whole Fiend Hunter Banisher Priest ability is good. It's on a 2/3 body, which is relevant since it doesn't die to shock, but it gets better as the game goes longer, which usually isn't something that you see with cards like that. You'll get into the late game where it's a 4 mana for a 2/3, but then you're also getting to pay 4 mana for whatever you take of your opponents, and then they don't even get their value back when they kill one of your creatures. So cards that are playable in the early game and then scale to be insane in the late game usually end up being very good.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's been fairly uncommon with a lot of 4 mana blue and black creatures. There was I think a tweet I saw that was just naming a whole bunch of them that just were never relevant, even though there was some hype about them before the actual release, which is it's kind of cool to see one be a winner. Also, we traded out one criminal for another one. We lost obviously the Strangler, the Wasteland Strangler. Now we have a kidnapper. So we're criminals all around.
Bad guys, nothing but bad guys.
Nothing but bad guys.
Now, I know you mentioned Jim Davis, and I know he's going to be on your show this season, right?
Yeah, so my show, F&M with CVM, so Wednesday Night Magic. It's a show where I sit down with 10 of my friends. It's a 10-episode season, and we play a deck of their choice through a league. There's an exclusive custom token that I've had made for each of my guests that will be unveiled at each episode, and depending on how well we do in the league and how well my guest does with some of the questions and games that we have, we rack up a count, and then we give away that many tokens to viewers at the end of the show. And Jim is guest number 10, so he's actually going to be the season finale, and I hope everybody likes the cool stuff that I'll have planned for it.
That's pretty awesome. So I know Inkland Customs is the one doing that. She drew my energy token. She made I wanted an E-Tank from Mega Man, and I have the the best little e-tank with a little Mega Man on it. And so I'm really happy that she's been working with you because her art's awesome. It's just really fun.
Yeah, it's great. I've worked with her quite a bit. Whenever I have just like a custom image that I'll use for like a Twitter avatar or something like that, I usually reach out to her. Same thing with like all of the graphics and the emotes for my stream. It looks like everybody else has caught on because I see her stuff all over the place. She is very, very good at what she does. That the whole like cute, chibi, cartoony style is something that I enjoy, and it seems like other people do too.
Yeah, it's pretty appealing, and it's so different from the Magic aesthetic that it sort of separates it, which is nice.
Yeah.
So, and I think she does a good job of presenting the beard, which I know is the trademark for you. So,
absolutely. Also, she's really kind. She keeps drawing me with hair, and I'm not going to correct her.
Now, I know your guest this week is Cedric Phillips, and I know we'll post this tomorrow, so it'll probably be after that. But I know that you're also doing some spell slinging for his event this weekend, right?
Yeah. So this week we have Cedric, and the deck that he's picked is pretty funny. I don't think anybody will guess it, so you'll have to watch to find out. But he does have a charity event this weekend here in Seattle at Mox Boarding House called Play for Faye to honor his mom, who is going through her second bout of radiation with breast cancer. And it's a charity event to raise money for the Breast Cancer Research Foundation. I helped him with the planning process. And once he got his date locked down, I was in the planning for my show, and I was like, this is perfect. I can just have you on the Wednesday before the event. We can promote it, talk a bunch of stuff. I actually I worked with Inkling Customs to get the design for the token and then loop Cedric in, and then he just kind of took over because he liked it so much. So we're using the token for the actual event itself, but you can still get some on the show. And yeah, it's just going to be awesome. Cedric's a good friend of mine. It's a good cause. I was really happy to help him out, and I'm looking forward not only to the show, so we can have some fun, but to Spell Sling, because I'm going to have a modern deck, a standard deck, and I'm going to bring my very first Commander deck along with me.
All right, I got to know, what are you bringing to the table?
I don't know for standard and modern just yet, but for Commander, I built Athreos.
Oh, okay. Nice.
I'm looking for some modern tech, so yeah, I was hoping you would spill the beans on that, because I have a Star City IQ coming up this weekend, so I don't know.
My default is Eldrazi-tron, but I think that might be a little outside of the spirit of spell slinging to try and have fun
yeah.
with the Tron land. So there's a chance that I put something fun together. I haven't decided yet.
All right.
Yeah, it's playing prison decks and things like that for for spell slinging. Yeah, probably not great.
Come donate your money and spend to come play me, and I'm just gonna make you not do anything.
That's pretty good. So obviously for standard, I wanted to get your thoughts on this as well, since we have the timing of this is interesting, but we have a fairly large tournament this weekend. So who do you got for the World Championships?
I think that I would like to see Jerry Thompson win, and I'm gonna. That's where I would put my ducats, I suppose. But anybody else from the Roanoke crew would be fine. So I would be happy if Brad ended up doing well too.
I mean, they could both do well ostensibly. So
that's true. First and second place.
Do you think that we'll see anything new standard wise? I know you mentioned that you thought the Pro Tour might be full of hostage takers, but in a small tournament like this weekend, do you think that people are already going to next level each other?
Yeah. So I think what we're going to see in standard is actually a lot of either going to be a bunch of approach and Ramanap red decks, or just everybody is going to try and one up each other with the best Sultai energy build.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of been it's been a little disappointing for me, in the last couple of Pro Tours, where I'm hoping something will break out, something new will kind of come out, but it seems like it's just been kind of the same decks, maybe a little bit more refined, but nothing too crazy.
So what's happening is we have we're on the back of some very parasitic mechanics with improvise and energy, and so new cards that are going to come into the pool are really only going to augment those as opposed to reinventing the wheel. So I don't think that we're going to see anything crazy new happen until Kaladesh block rotates out and we lose energy, because it was undertuned. The cards are just so good, and anything new that's going to come out is just going to fill in those holes that deck is lacking, which we see with like Hostage Taker and the Scarab God, just kind of fill in that late game grind attrition-y value hole that the energy deck didn't have before, and it's just what it's going to be until those cards leave, unfortunately.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, I think we had a lot of players even locally here who were really pumped for things like dinosaurs. But when you look at the results from this weekend, and I'm sure I'm going to have to assume you're a dinosaur fan just based on your past successes. But when you look at it, only having a half a set of dinosaurs, I think it was pretty unrealistic to believe that they had a chance to really compete with the energy decks.
And even then, they just don't line up very well against the card Hostage Taker, which is just so good, right? Like the dinosaur mechanic is like Enrage, and you get value from Enrage, and you have these like undercosted, beefy creatures, but then they can just get rid of them with one card, and then you have to take time off to get rid of it to get your card back. But once it gets to the late game, you don't even have that luxury because they just take your guy and then cast it. So I feel like Hostage Taker is, going to be keeping the dinosaurs in check, at least for now.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. So
yeah, we've been kind of scratching our heads at Metallic Mimic. I don't know if you've seen that card suddenly jumped up to $13-14 at varying places, and we were trying to figure out why exactly.
Just tribal stuff, man.
Yeah, I guess
it also plays very well with the Merfolk. So if there ends up being a good Merfolk deck in Standard, it's because of Metallic Mimic, I think.
That's probably fair. A couple of listeners tried to tell us it was the Cat Tribal deck that topped 32 the Classic, which if you haven't seen that, does look pretty sweet.
I mean, I guess it's just all of the above, right? Just all the tribal decks.
Lots of tribes.
They all want it.
Fair enough. I mean, I'm glad I own them now, and I don't have to worry about trying to procure them in case something does break out regarding a tribal deck at the Pro Tour or Worlds. Who knows?
That seems like a tough stretch, but we'll see. Now, I know one of the other reasons we had you on here, and we'll get you, to sort of repeat the info for your show, but it's also because you've been doing what we've been doing and giving away a ton of beautiful BCW supplies.
Yeah. I partnered with BCW. I've actually been friends with Rick, their marketing guy, for a while. I was in talks with MGG to join them when I ended up joining Card Hoarder with some of my friends before, so I have a pretty close relationship with those guys. And I was looking for a deck box, and Rick was like, hey, let me send you one of these Deck Locker LXs. Go ahead and try it out. Let me know what you think. And I was like, yo, this is awesome. I really like this. I don't see it on a lot of websites. I know that you guys' first version of these sucked, and you got a terrible rating from the professor, and everybody stayed away. But they went in and redesigned it, changed how they manufacture it, changed the materials around, and it's just a high-quality deck box. But, it's just nobody has them, and they're not talking about them. So this is awesome. I would love if you guys can give me some stuff so I can give it away. We did a test run for it. They were really happy with the results for it, and they're like, all right, well, we're going to go ahead and sign you on for a year. Let us just give you a whole bunch of stuff, and I want you to give it away. So going to be giving it away all year.
Yeah, we're kind of in the same boat, and Rick is awesome. We have the luxury of being in the Midwest, so we see him from time to time, and he's always been a real stand-up guy to us and on our show and everything like that. So it's awesome to see that he's done his due diligence to outreach to some awesome people to really hype the brand, as it were, we've not been able to stop talking about their new sleeves that they have.
They're so good.
They are so good. They're just good. I can understand. It just sounds like we're just horrible corporate shills talking about them, but they're just really good sleeves. So whatever. I guess I'll be that guy. But
I mean, I used them at the pre-release. I've been giving them away. Everybody's been giving me positive feedback. I'm gonna get some of them and pass them out at work for people to try out, because we actually carry deck boxes and binders on Card Kingdom, because I use them and like them so much, and I'm the product manager, so I got some for Card Kingdom. But the next thing, I'm going to be looking to get some of the sleeves, because you just can't really find them in most places, and they are way better than what you're paying for.
Yes, and just the prices of comparatively, especially the elite guards, they're nice.
Yeah, they're like $6 or $7 for an 80 pack. Like they're on that same level of like quality and price that the Ultra Pro Eclipse are, and that's a pretty tough bar to match.
Yeah.
Well, we want to thank you for the quick interview. Do you want to go ahead and give the rundown where everyone can find you and find FNM with CVM?
Yeah, absolutely. You can find me on Twitter at Chris_VanMeter. You can also find me on Twitch, twitch.tv/Chris_VanMeter. That's also where the show is. So the show's Twitter is at FNM with CVM. It's Wednesday nights at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, all the way through for 7 more weeks, except I'm skipping the week of Thanksgiving, so that's the one week we'll have off. And this week we have Cedric, so that would be tomorrow, I guess earlier today if this gets posted tomorrow. But the following week we have BBD, so that's going to be a pretty good show. And one of the things that I'm asking for is for people to send me questions that they want me to ask the guest, and no holds barred. So if there's ever anything personal, awkward, funny, just good questions that anybody has for any of the guests that are on the show, send them my way and we'll make sure they answer on camera.
All right, well, fair enough. We'll make sure you send your questions in to CVM, and thank you for your time.
Yeah, we really do appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, that is going to be it for the interview section of At Your End Step, and we'll switch it back to your regularly scheduled programming at this point in time, and you guys enjoy the rest of the show. All right, and we're back. So, again, thank you so much to Chris Van Meter for CVM for doing that interview with us. We super appreciate it. Before we jump into the competitive segment of the show, let's give a shout out to Comic Town. They will be hosting a modern Star City Games IQ featuring double prize support. That means invites to the top 4 and $2,000 in total prizes instead of the normal $1K. Going to top 16. It's a $30 entry, and registration opens at 11 a.m. with a noon player meeting.
That is this Saturday.
This Saturday.
Most of the time when I've gotten double prizes, it's been like an extra sticker in the Cracker Jack box or something. So
Well,
an extra $1,000 feels pretty good.
Yeah, no joke. And then on Saturday, October 14th, they'll be hosting a standard format PPTQ. It's going to be $30 entry with $1K in total prize support being distributed to the top 8.
In store credit.
Yeah, in store credit. And then registration opens at 11 a.m. with a noon player meeting. So this Saturday is going to be the cash event, and then next Saturday, I guess the following Saturday is a better way to put that, October 14th, will be the store credit event for the PPTQ.
It's a great month for events at the store, so
It super is.
go.
So if you aren't heading out to Nationals, which is also going to be that weekend, you have a place where you can play and get an awesome payout and get queued for the RPTQ on that Saturday. All right. Competitive. Let's dive right into it. There are a couple of GPs we're not going to talk about, and they're team limited. If you're interested in them, go look them up.
Apparently, nobody watching was interested either, because the finals of GP Providence, which featured prominent pros, had around, I'd say 3,000 viewers, and the Star City top 8 had about 12,000.
Because it's new standard. People are way more interested in what happened in Dallas. So we had Star City Games in
Absolutely.
Dallas.
I'm more interested.
Yeah, and it was an awesome tournament. It was won by Andrew Jessup. So obviously a member of the Metagame Gurus. To whoever went to the Challenger Guru event the previous night and beat him, congratulations. You were defeating the future Dallas Open champion. So I know that he's won accolades previous to that, but it was nice to get one over on him beforehand.
Honestly, his parents should be happy too, because they finally were able to settle the age-old question of who's the better Jessup.
Well, he said it in his it's in his like
Twitter
his profile.
handle. Yeah.
Well, no, if how Star City puts up like their, they have what team they're on and like some fun facts. He even said he's the best player in the house, and he beat his brother twice in the tournament playing the same 75. So I don't know.
It just makes the decisions like on Christmas and stuff easier for their family, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So,
So congratulations to him. And Sultai Energy was kind of one of the new breakout decks to show up. I mean, this is a deck that is has similar components and pieces to Team Energy, but obviously a more of a focus on black. Specifically for Hostage Taker, to be perfectly honest, this is a card that we've kind of alluded to and talked about with CVM, and this is a 4 of in this list, specifically the reason that CVM kind of said it's a card that is good early and then scales superbly into the late game, as CVM said. So this was a breakout card out of Ixalan for sure. It had some rumblings beforehand, but this showed its prominence as far as that goes.
Yeah, Hostage Taker is just like, it's a sweet card. It's probably my favorite non-reprint. I think Opt is probably my favorite card in the set, but that's a reprint. My favorite new card is definitely Hostage Taker, as far as just sweet ones. And definitely from what I saw from the coverage, especially when you have two Hostage Taker decks, things can get pretty silly. We have hostages taking hostages.
Right. You have like weird cascade effects that can happen when one hostage taker takes another one, and then something happens, and then it just it can be a swingy card for sure.
And the thing for sure is it's a 2/3, which isn't the most durable. It dies to a lot of the 3 damage red spells and things like that. It can die to fatal push. Though it's a little harder to activate.
Eaten by Glorybringer.
Right. However, if you don't kill it right away, then they're getting value, most likely. Now, you can have some late game scenarios where you cast your Hostage Taker and then you just immediately cast whatever it is that you're taking.
Well, yeah.
But like, if it's a situation where it's like you are removing, I don't know, Hazaret. Or you're removing, the Scarab God. If you don't kill the Hostage Taker right away and they get to cast that card the next turn, then you're in big trouble.
And speaking to the, I mentioned the fragility, during the set review of Hostage Taker. Well, they sort of mitigate this by playing 4 copies of Blossoming Defense in the main.
Yeah,
which, the blowout where you get to counter the removal spell on the Hostage Taker, so you get to untap with it. I feel like there are probably a ton of games just decided on that interaction alone, and it's pretty scary. So I guess I am surprised by how good this card is, and it seems like it's going to be format defining.
Yeah, I mean, both Andrew and Danny Jessup play the same 75, and they definitely, you could tell that they figured out the trick. They figured out that Hostage Taker was the thing, and yeah, like you said, the 4 Blossoming Defense is just great. It makes a lot of sense. And I'm sure like a lot of people that maybe didn't know what was going on, or maybe weren't really sure if like how good Hostage Taker was, they probably found out really quick, throughout the tournament that, this is legit. So, yeah, I mean, it's a super solid deck. Other than Hostage Taker, you just have a lot of the, black-green energy elements. You have, your Winding Constrictors with your energy. You got your Walking Ballistas. Like, these are all just good cards. And yeah, I don't know. I mean,
it's just like this is what happens. And if you listen to again the interview with CVM, he mentioned how Kaladesh had this. And WotC itself, Morrow has described energy as parasitic. Well, you see exactly in this list what Morrow and CVM were both talking about. You already had a shell that was good. You augment with newer cards, but you're not breaking up that energy shell.
No.
And now it'll be interesting to see, like, if energy is really powerful and you have things like Blue-Eyed Approach, do things like Solemnity become much more powerful. If you expect 50% of the field to be some version of an energy deck, I gotta assume that card is fine. But this deck still operating on the Winding Constrictor plan too is at least a little bit interesting with Rishkar, though you don't have the top end of Gearhulk anymore.
Right.
So that could come back. Don't get me wrong. The smaller version here, you could go bigger, but you want to move on to other decks?
Yeah. Let's talk about second place. So we had Jessup beating what? Tad McCraig?
Macareg.
Playing Ramen Up Red. So this deck's still around. And it doesn't necessarily have a whole lot from Ixalan. We do see, of course, the one, the only, the Lightning Strike showing up here, of course. But I mean, in his list, that's what it
That's
right?
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything else already existed. We don't see the new one drop with First Strike. We see the full complement instead of Beaumont Couriers and Soulscar Mages as the one drops, and then everything else is pretty much typically what you would expect to see from a mono red deck. I feel like there's more braids. He's playing a full complement. I don't know
Yeah.
if they played a full complement.
I think
Pre-Ixalan.
one of the biggest answers in the format going into the weekend was playing. A lot of decks were playing either in the main or sideboard Aethersphere Harvesters, so it definitely feels like having more braids
Makes sense.
is not bad. Look at that sideboard. You see that Harsh Manner?
I do.
Yeah. Hey, do you know what happens when you put counters on your Long Tusk Cub?